thank you very much to all of you to be with us today. I'm really thrilled to be able to have a conversation with Helen. She's the Chief Sustainability Officer of Recover, as she said. She founded the Cycle Economy Textiles Program in 2014, just after the Rana Plaza, which was in the 2013. And since then, she has worked as an independent professional on the key industry projects with leading global organizations to help drive the transition towards the circular, zero-waste textile industry. So thank you very much for being with us today.
For having me.
And I'm really amazed to be exponing to you the example of Recover. Recover is a Spanish company, and it's at the forefront of recycling and circularity. And as Spaniard, I'm really proud of them being really leading the world on leading the industry on this area. Recover is the leading material science company and a global producer of low-impact, high-quality recycled cotton fiber and cotton fiber blends. Its premium, environmentally friendly, cost-competitive products are created in partnership with the supply chain for global retailers and brands offering a sustainable solution to close the loop on fashion. This is a fourth-generation family-owned company with a 70-year history in the textile industry. So I think we can learn a huge lot about this with this company. So just to start the conversation, I would like to ask you why circularity is so important for the fashion industry in particular and for our world in general.
It's a good question. I think circularity is important for the world, but mainly it's important for us. I mean, the world, nature is already circular. We are the ones who are living in the linear way on this planet. We are using 2.5 to 3 planets a year, using up the resources, creating the waste when we only have one. So I think this is how I always try to describe the urgency to work in a circular way. The fashion industry is actually one of the most polluting and linear industries in the world. It's an industry of hyperconsumption and also creating a lot of waste. So the problem is quite big for the fashion industry, but then at the same time, the opportunity is also quite big. So there is really a big opportunity for circularity also in fashion.
Great. You are pioneers and really visionaries, producing recycling fabrics from 1947, which really, when I knew that, I was really amazed about that fact. What circularity means for Recover, and why did you start it so early?
Well, originally this recycling was an innovation that was born out of necessity, because at the time in Spain there were not a lot of actual natural resources, so we had to, well, it was not me, of course, back in that time, but we had to use whatever was there. And over the past 70 years, we've innovated on this process to become better and better and better, to be able to now create recycled fibers that can be used again to create t-shirts and apparel and kind of high-end products as well. So I would say circularity for Recover is core. Our vision is also to achieve circular fashion for all. So yeah, it's really the way and the reason why we exist.
What have been your main successes and the main pitfalls in your path to circularity?
Well, I'll start with the successes. I think we're really happy to see that the demand from the brands and the retailers has really increased a lot in the recent years. So really big players are seeing recycled cotton as a great alternative to virgin conventional cotton. And this was not always the case. So this is really a success for us. Yeah, at the same time, we've been recognized in the past year for being a sustainability front runner with several awards. But I think, and we're also now at South Summit, so this would probably speak to a lot of you, we're quite proud and excited that the news was out yesterday that we secured a $100 million investment in the company to fund our growth plans. Thank you. So we're really excited about that. And pitfalls,
yes.
They're also there, of course. I think that having a circular solution means we're part of a transition to circular, and this is a systemic change. So aside from having to do the actual technology and recycling, we are also constantly busy in creating awareness, educating the industry, educating the consumer, but also a huge technology transfer to the supply chain because they are not used to working with recycled fibers. And I think that is something that can be challenging and also actually time consuming. So for us, this is a pitfall because we would like to go faster and grow faster. But this is also something that we need to do along the way.
Great. You say that post-consumer garments are the holy grail and the one challenge. Why and what are you doing about it?
I would say, of course, it's not the only one challenge in the industry, but it's a big one. As I was saying, we're living in hyper-consumption time. So we are consuming twice as much as we did before. And we are using the garments or the clothes, the products, for half as long. So we're starting to see clothes a little bit as a disposable object almost. And this is quite a concern because every garment takes a lot of, like a huge footprint to make actually, and then on the other side we're sitting with all this waste. So this is really a big challenge, as I said, and it's also a hard one to tackle because the big part of the textile waste that we are using to recycle now is industrial waste. It's the waste that is created when you make a garment, the offcuts. And this is already great because otherwise this would end up in landfill. But as you can imagine, post-consumer, if you are, donating your clothes or throwing away your clothes, it's everything mixed together. Colors, fibers, there's buttons, zippers, all these kind of things, and these cannot all be recycled. So to be able to do that, we need to create a system where we can sort these fibers on composition, we can sort on color, we can remove all these parts that are not recyclable, and we need technology for that. We need also a scaled capacity to do that. So that's really something that even though we want to tackle this, and our technology is actually capable to do that, we need a whole system around it to be able to do that at scale. So I think that's what I say. It's a big challenge because it's, the industry sees this as the holy grail. If we can create, from everything that you've already worn, can create again new garments, that would be, it would be the holy grail of circularity. Yeah.
And so what are the main actions you are taking for that?
We are doing several pilot projects with brand partners to really look at, okay, how do we do this at a small scale? And at the same time, we're part of a lot of industry groups, European level projects that aim to build this infrastructure and fill these technology gaps that are still there at an industry level. So I think we're working at 2 different levels.
Great. And what about regenerative agriculture?
Oh, it's a good question. Of course, we have recycled cotton, so we don't have anything to do with agriculture. However, we know that we will always need to have virgin cotton as well. We are a growing population, so even though we recycle everything, we also need to produce new fibers. So it's really important to do that in a way that regenerates the soil and makes sure that we protect the earth in that way. Otherwise, we cannot have food systems and systems that produce textile fibers in a growing population. So this is really essential.
You're expanding to countries like Bangladesh, which you already have a hub there, Vietnam, Pakistan, or India, that have been pointed as the source of many of the industry problems. Why are you doing it, and what are you making to make sure that you have the highest social and environmental standards in your operations?
It's a good question, and it's actually, for me, from the sustainability side, we are growing quite fast. So the focus for the company really is to do this in the most responsible way. The reason why we are in these hubs is because we are close to the waste and we are close to the manufacturing. And so in this way, we can really reduce the footprint and the cost also of transport. And be where it happens. But it can be challenging in these areas to meet the same high standards that we have here in Europe. But this is really our mission. We want to only operate there if we can achieve the same certifications, the same standards that we are operating here. And we're just working really hard to make sure that happens.
You're also working with the usual suspects in the industry, the fast fashion retailers like C&A or Primark. My question is it been easy? What is the state of the fashion retailers in terms of sustainability? And could we be taking with them about greenwashing?
Oof. Yes. Yeah, of course, it's not always easy, but I think it never is. So first and foremost, I know that it can be controversial, but as I said, the vision that we have as a company is to achieve circular fashion for all. For all means that it needs to be accessible and affordable to everybody. We don't want to sell a product, and we are actually quite proud to be able to offer a product that is not at a premium. And it can be replacing recycled cotton in all kinds of products for all kinds of retailers. So we also work for high-end brands, but they are really a small part of the industry. If we want to really achieve this impact, we need to go with these big retailers because they have the volumes, they have the quantities. So that is what we want to achieve. At the same time, I know that sometimes you're thinking, yeah, the business model is also about consumption. This is something that can, sometimes be a conflict, but what we want is that at least every product that they make in the most sustainable way. And while working with them, we always try to educate them. Try also circular design, try also circular business models, because we need not only to do recycling, we need all of the other aspects of circularity as well.
What do you think have been your key success factors?
Well, you say that we are already existing for over 70 years, so we have built over all these decades a lot of expertise in recycling. So the core and the quality of our product is really a key success factor. But now also the fact that we are in these different hubs worldwide means that we can really offer these big players a global solution. So they have our fiber, the same standard quality fiber, and access to it in all of their global supply chains. And that's really something that is a big advantage for these players. And also our marketing. I would say that our brand is quite well known in the market. And we really help retailers as well to communicate to their consumer. So we measure everything that we do through LCA methodology. So we know everything about the impact of our process and our product. And then we help retailers to communicate that to the consumer. So how to say, okay, how much water do you save when purchasing this t-shirt? In terms of things that consumers can understand, drinking water or numbers of showers. And I think that's something that they really appreciate the support on, so yeah.
What is left to reach full circularity in the fashion industry? And where are you going to concentrate on?
Oof, a lot, because we are definitely not circular yet. I think it's an old statistic, but I don't think we've come very far since then, is that currently only, let's say, 1% of the used garments is being recycled back into new garments in a closed loop. So this is something that, we have still a very, very long way to go. Recycling is one big element of that, and so we're really in a position to influence that. But at the same time, we also need circular design. Clothes need to be designed in a way that either they are very durable and also they can be recycled. We need business models like resale, rental, all of these things to keep products in use for a long time. And then at the end, Recover can be there to recycle the garments. So again, it's all these different elements that need to be there. We, of course, will focus on scaling our recycling and scaling the recycling of post-consumer to really help achieve that.
Thank you. Well, I think that's key, and I think that education also for all of us, like to know how to do that, would be really, really relevant. In general, really we are seeing a concentration in the E of in environmental challenges. The social challenges are a little bit being left behind. Obviously, they are much more difficult to quantify. Are both being addressed in the same level in the fashion industry? And what about Recover?
I think so. Maybe not at the same level. I mean, I would say that a big part of the social challenges maybe happens in a different place than a big part of the environmental problems, and a different place in the value chain. I agree that actually now when you buy a product, it's mainly the environmental characteristics and aspects that are being promoted. So I think it looks like, that's the only thing that players are focusing on. But for example, if you look at the certification of Global Recycle Standard or the HIG assessments, they all also have a social component, and it's something that we also implement and work on. And I think the main core is that we believe there is no environmental justice without social justice. They are completely, linked. So for us, circularity needs to go hand in hand with social responsibility, for sure. And this is something that we also want to carry out into the world.
I think, like as you said, environmental justice needs to be along with social justice, and we cannot generate any without the other. And that's, I think that's something that also needs to be spread in the world, because like we have been talking about environmental issues for like the last decade or even more, and social is starting to be looked at right now. I find the fashion industry one of the most advanced in terms of the effect of their operations, like they have measured that. From your learning and experience in textiles, what you would recommend other companies and other industries trying to move to circularity now?
So it's a bit of a two-way answer. I think what I've learned also, because I wasn't always in recycling, also in business models, and I think that being here, and there's a lot of tech startups as well, they can appreciate the same in circularity. Start small. Do it in an agile way, start a pilot, and if that works, scale from there. I think that's really something that I've learned along the way. But circularity is about systems change. And so it's not something that you can do in your own company by yourself. So really to move on the circular journey, you need to collaborate. And it's, we need to collaborate. Yes, we need to collaborate. And also, have a little courage, guts is very important. I think especially in the fashion industry, in the value chain, there's always been this dynamic in the value chain of us versus them, supplier versus client. We are, against each other. But if you want to achieve this sustainable innovation, you need to be together, because it's difficult enough as it is. So partnership is very important there. And we see that also with the partners that we work with. I think that is very essential.
Great. Which message would you send to the public here today?
Oof. I mean, if I just see you as also consumers, that from the fashion industry, I want to give a message, it would be a responsible consumer in fashion. So, think about what you buy responsibly, use it for as long as you want. And if you don't use it anymore, donate it and make sure that you don't throw it in the trash, because who knows, it will end up with Recover at some point.
Thank you very much. From what I was hearing, I just would like to wrap up a little bit before giving the word to the audience. I wrote several of the things that you were mentioning. For me, like, nature is already circular. We are the ones that are linear. So start to think about circularity already. The other thing that I hear that makes me a little bit sad is like demand has increased a lot. So we are, although we have been thinking about environmental problems, they only have one planet, we are still increasing our demands in garments, so we really need to do something about this. The other issue that really came to my mind is systemic change. We really need awareness, educating, teaching, transfer, and really work all in the same direction. Hyper-consumption times, which went to my mind. Protect the earth. And the other thing that is very important is that, like, to look at the certificates. Like, if we want to be a responsible consumer, like the gods you said, and the other one, we really need to make sure that we are looking at both on the environmental justice and social justice. And the only thing that we can do right now to make sure that that's there is to look at the certificates and partnerships. And what really came out of our conversation, I feel really optimistic. I feel that we are doing something about it. I feel that we have really great technology. I feel that the whole industry is working on the issue at different levels, at different speeds, different implications, but we are all working on it. So let's, us as consumers, help that drive.
And yeah, on the last note, I mean, a lot of these things are also voluntary industry commitments, right? And now I'm quite happy that, you know, European legislation, regulation that's coming is really going to push us. It's not going to be voluntary anymore. It's not going to be an option anymore. It's not going to be allowed to do greenwashing. You're going to have to, all the states have to mandatory collect textiles that are used textiles. Brands are being forced to put recycled content into their products. So this is, for me, also really great that we live in Europe and that we have this legislation that can also help to push this forward.
Okay, so thank you very much, and I would like to open the floor to the audience for the questions that you would like to make. You only have 5 minutes. They allow us 5 more minutes, but that would be great.
Thank you. This was a wonderful session, really insightful and really good work you're doing here. 2 quick questions. One is regarding what more can be done apart from, you know, circularity in the recycling aspect. For instance, you know, being able to decipher the carbon footprint from the manufacturing to the transportation of the material to the actual reaching the consumer. Is that something where tech can play a role to quantify the carbon footprint? Secondly, for instance, I want to discard my garment. Is there a way that I can say that, okay, how do I know it will reach recover? Are there collection agencies or, you know?
Great. So for sure, tech can play a big role. I think we are actually using tech and life cycle analysis tooling to measure the footprint. It's an online tool that we can use to kind of map the impact and then also see, okay, if we do this, what happens? If we do this intervention, what happens? This is beyond carbon, but we see that we need to also do carbon reporting. It's going to be mandatory, and so tools that can help us to gain insight into that, quantify it, is super useful and definitely something that we are using and will be using in the future. And we're definitely not the only ones. I would say that as a consumer in Holland, I mean, I'm from Holland, I'm from Amsterdam. There's all these bins on the street. I'm not sure how this is in Spain. You have in-store collection programs as well, which can work, but put it there, and then they will make sure to sort it. If it's still good, first of all, it will be reused. So it will go another round before it would come to a recycler, but yeah.
So just like with paper fiber, I imagine that fabric fiber can only be reused so many times because the material tires at some point. Is that correct?
Very good question.
Yes. Oh. And if that is the case, then how do you filter out that fiber and what happens to that material?
So I think my mic, there it is. So it's true, and also with mechanical recycling, because this is what we do, every step there is a small degradation of the fiber. So the fiber gets a little bit shorter, but we blend it with virgin fibers to still be able to create a product with a great performance, and you can do that a couple of cycles. The paper technology is more similar to chemical recycling technology in textiles, which is also happening. And actually there can be a really great synergy between the technologies, because for example, through mechanical recycling, we can keep recycling cotton for a couple of times, and then when the fiber becomes too degraded, it can be regenerated through a chemical recycling process, which turns cotton into a man-made cellulosic fiber. And so Recover is not the only technology that we need to create circularity in textiles. We need, you know, a lot of different flavors to be able to keep those materials in the loop. But yeah, good question.
Sorry, they are telling me there is one more question. I'm sorry, we need to cut the conversation. I think it has been really great and really interesting and insightful. Thank you and Recover for all the work that you have been doing for circularity and for our world. Thank you very much.